Okay, thank you to James Beard Foundation and Houston First for recognizing and nurturing the culinary talent in Houston. Although it has been developing steadily over the last 15 years or so, with your help and encouragement, it has recently exploded. Even Michelin has taken notice. I'm Tracy Vaught, president of H-Town Restaurant Group here in Houston. Houston's my hometown. I've grown to be proud of my city. I used to make excuses for Houston, the hot and humid weather, the empty downtown, but not anymore. We're busy now. We hosted the Final Four and the Super Bowl. We built 4 stadiums. We built Discovery Green downtown. We redesigned Memorial Park to be more user-friendly. We built the largest and best medical center in the world, and we continued up our game in food and beverage. I graduated from University of Texas with a BS in geology and worked with Gruy Federal in Washington, D.C., working on contracts for the government and geothermal energy. Later for Conoco, and I sat wells for them. Later, when I got a little bit more experience, they wanted me in the office more. So I decided I didn't really want to do that. I was looking for something that I would be around people more and something where I could be in the sunshine instead of up on the 20th floor looking down. So I thought, well, I know something about cooking that I learned from my grandmother. I know something about antiques that I learned from her as well. So I thought, well, maybe I can do something in that. Antiques, it turned out, really wasn't a money-making deal, so I thought maybe a little cafe, and I saw one for rent near where I live. And I consulted my uncle, who was my cheerleader, and he said everybody should follow their dream. So he helped me. We opened Backstreet Cafe together in 1983. The picture you see is a picture of what it looked like when we rented it. Obviously, it's not a restaurant, it was a home. And like on Pier and Beam, a 2-story house, and it had been an antique store, ironically, and an all-women printing company. So we took it over in 1983, renovated it, and it was sort of known as a local watering hole cafe. And later, we kind of expanded and improved it, and we began to get noticed, locally and statewide, and also nationally. In those beginning years, we were always trying to keep our heads above water and keep our employees off drugs. Back then, we didn't really think about our goals or our principles. We were in the trenches, and there wasn't any spare money. It was sink or swim time for us, and I remember a bank teller saying, whispering, she'll never make it, she doesn't even understand she needs to face her bills. So things were working against me, and it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But we kept our heads down, and we worked really hard. I met my husband at Backstreet Cafe when I hired him as a dishwasher in 1987. At that time, he had been out of work and homeless after losing 2 jobs and his place to live. But we gave him a chance. He loved his work and soon learned enough to be promoted to bus person. I encouraged him to take English classes, and soon he wanted to return to the kitchen to cook on the line. He knew a bit about cooking, albeit not this type of food, since he helped his mom and grandmother cook daily for the family. Soon after this, our relationship blossomed to the horror of my employees and my family. We tried to keep it on the down low, but those things have a way of spreading like wildfire. So you stand a bit too close, or your gaze hangs a little too long, or you laugh a bit too much when they speak. Our secret was out, so I transferred him to our other restaurant, Prego, which I had recently taken over. Hugo worked under a chef there and really loved it. He was like a sponge, learning more and more each day. He ended up taking classes at the CIA in Hyde Park and Greystone, and finally he went to the culinary school at Houston Community College. Hugo's education was only through 8th grade in Mexico, and his English was still rudimentary. So he struggled at the community college, but showed a lot of promise, and they graciously allowed him to take his tests orally. He graduated, and it was a huge accomplishment for him. It gave him a lot of confidence. So after graduation, he was promoted to chef at Backstreet. Over the next few years, we married and had our daughter, Sophia. Hugo and I went on to open a regional Mexican restaurant in 2002, which was named after Hugo. It was his project at Houston Community College, actually, that came to fruition, which was really nice. We opened a Caracol, a Mexican coastal kitchen, Xochi, specializing in Oaxacan cuisine, where we were last night, and Urbe, which serves street foods of Mexico, like was featured in the cookbook written by Hugo and his brother Ruben. Watching Hugo learn and advance in his career has been the joy of my life. I have done every job in the restaurant, but I'm not particularly good at any of them. I've been a waiter, I've been a bookkeeper, I've been a host, a bartender, designed menus, created recipes, run food, and expedited. I've learned that I am particularly good at a couple of things. I'm good at recognizing and nurturing talent. I have learned to allow employees to explore, learn, fall, get back up without recriminations to continue their journey. Don't immediately take back control if someone orders too much liquor when they are learning to order. Don't immediately take back control if they make a mistake assigning tables to the waiters and the restaurant gets in the weeds. Don't immediately take back control if the chef schedules too many people and the payroll costs shoot up. Instead, add more guidelines. Discuss it and keep your faith in them. I firmly believe it is a mistake to hold the reins so tightly that people can't grow. Encourage them, celebrate their wins, and stay involved. Don't drag the wagon. Being out front, pulling the employees is so frustrating. Slow down, bring everyone along with you. You will arrive together and be an unbeatable team. Hugo proved to me that you don't need strict hiring guidelines to put together a great team. Requiring a high school diploma or a college degree can be an unnecessary barrier to hiring great people. With or without your help, they'll rise to the limits of their abilities. If people show you that they are ready for a promotion, job change, or opportunity, believe them. Hugo wasn't the only one in our organization that advanced himself or herself well beyond their initial position. Marina was a hardworking, non-English-speaking bus girl. She and her sister worked evenings at Caracol. She asked for a transfer to Xochi for a change of scenery, and soon after, I saw her all dressed up hosting one evening. I inquired, worried that she couldn't communicate with our guests. I learned she was taking English lessons and had learned enough to seat guests. She was on the move, and I took notice. I was so impressed with her. A few months later, I saw her learning all the drinks and running them to the tables. She had a big plan for herself. The manager obviously saw something special in Marina and adjusted the training program to fit her needs. They kept her in the training position for several weeks, much longer than normal. And the next thing I knew, she was waiting tables at Xochi, going to wine classes with the other waiters. Marina was so determined to advance herself that she would have left us and found someone who would have believed in her if we didn't. Thank goodness we did believe in her, and she is now a very valued member of the wait staff, and she was able to more than double her salary. Some guests noticed her promotion and were so pleased and happy for her. Now her sister is taking the same path that Marina paved for her. Taj started with us as a hostess at Backstreet. Back then, we worked out of a red book and didn't have a computer program for reservations. She left us to become a bank teller at Bank of America and have 2 children. She returned with more skills and maturity. She was a single mom and needed a steady job and more income. She began helping in the office and created her next job in HR. She and I went to numerous seminars and lunch and learn events put on by Restaurant Association and others. We learned together about I-9 regulations, immigration, overtime, and minimum wage. She did payrolls for our restaurant and also helped us navigate through COVID by applying and receiving PPP, RRF, and ERTC funds, as well as constant work to keep us supplied with PPE and to-go supplies that were in such short supply. She now runs an office with several employees as head of HR and de facto head of IT. Carlos started with Hugo's when it opened as a food runner, and he was 16 years old. His father was GM at the time and taught him consistently every day. Carlos went to the University of Houston, Conrad Hilton College of Global Hospitality Leadership to round out his education, get him excited about putting all he had learned to the test. He was promoted to expediter and held that position for a year or two and then became a waiter and a bartender. His father understood customer service as well as anyone I've ever known, and he patiently taught Carlos about the steps of service and how to make each guest feel welcome. Soon he was managing under his father, and later his father left for another job opportunity and Carlos took his place. But he wasn't finished. As we opened more restaurants, we needed a director of operations for our growing enterprise, and he currently holds that position at the age of 38. There are many more examples of our employees that have advanced beyond their initial expectations. Some have moved on and some are still with us. Our longest-standing employee is Jorge, who's been with us for 36 years. It has been the most rewarding part of my work to see our employees learn new skills, make more money, and advance in their careers. We opened Urbe, our street food concept, during the pandemic. We struggled to get anyone to apply for a job there. We had job fairs, advertised, asked other employees, nothing worked. We ended up hiring every person that walked in the door, every single person. They came from places like Pluckers, IHOP, Applebee's, and they were very young. We knew that we had our hands full, and we trained and trained and trained. And many of the same employees are still there today as when it opened. They're very confident and accomplished now. They've learned so much, and we're so proud of them. The other thing I'm good at is charting a course, both financially and operationally. I try to take time to analyze our current situation and look to the future, not as an unknown, undefinable thing, but as something I am planning and shaping every day. I understand I cannot control the future and that anything and everything can happen. However, without a plan, you're going nowhere. After all, you don't win the Super Bowl by chance. You are a savvy group of entrepreneurs in our industry, and you are probably curious what helped my group turn things around and be successful. I would be remiss if I didn't address what has guided me since those tough years. Although this isn't the central message of my speech today, I consider it to be very important to share with you. You need to know what you want your business to be specifically and where you want to go, both professionally and personally. You need a mission statement for your restaurant and yourself. You and your restaurant are intertwined, and both need to stay on track for your success and fulfillment. You need to do some soul searching and determine what qualities are most important to you. Is it teamwork, integrity, honesty, mentorship, partnership, or opportunity? Or something totally different? Once you determine these core values that you hold so dear, the most important qualities you want to live by, it may be some time before you read over them again. I always keep them at arm's length on my desk, and I review them at various times. I find that if I'm at a crossroads, I review my core values, my mission statements, and that gives me a hint of what direction to go. We have now been in business for 41 years. My daughter, Sophia, will soon take over the business. It has given me time to reflect on what we have all done together. We have worked like ants building this business, and I felt it is time to commemorate that in some way. I felt it was time to recognize our long-term employees with a party. We designed 3 lapel pins, a gold one with a red outer rim for 5+ years of employment, a gold one with a blue outer rim for 10+ years of employment, and a solid gold one for 20+ years of employment. And we celebrated with light bites and champagne, a check, and some gift cards, and we told stories and signed books, and it was very valuable to the employees, something that I thought was sort of almost like not as important. I thought it was a silly gesture, kind of a fun thing to do, but it meant a lot to the employees. So it felt good for them to be recognized, seen, and celebrated. Another new initiative we're working on, I learned from Emily Williams-Knight, who was here, and she did the speech yesterday on grit. During each biannual TRA board meeting, she hands out what she calls challenge coins to those who have gone above and beyond for the association. I liked the idea, but I was unsure how to implement it. After getting the lapel pins made, I kind of understood the process more, and I designed some challenge coins. And we're going to be giving those out probably this fall. But to give you an example, a challenge coin might be in order for someone who voluntarily covered several shifts for a sick employee. Or Marina might deserve one for advancing her career with education. Or Taj might deserve one for researching and getting the PPP, RRF, and ERTC funds for our company. Hugo might deserve one for winning the James Beard Award for Best Chef Southwest. You get the idea. It can be big or small. This is the most challenging time for restaurants that I have ever experienced in my 41-year career. I used to think that owning a restaurant was all about food and service. There are so many other challenges now, rising prices, high wages, high rents, to name a few. Now, as I gain more experience, I realize that keeping the staff members curious, motivated, and fulfilled is as much or more a part of my job as serving guests. It just takes a long time to realize this for me, and even longer to understand how to be a good manager. Live by your principles, know where you're going, give your employees a chance to advance, and plan for your future like you mean it. Thank you.